Hello, everybody. I'm happy to welcome you to this webinar about AI-enabled disinformation. This event is part of the INFODEMIC project, in which we created materials on 3 different themes related to disinformation. One of them is AI-enabled disinformation. And 2 other topics are foreign interference, information manipulation and interference, and climate disinformation. And these topics we will discuss in 2 weeks and in 3 weeks. So if you're interested in these as well, you will find the information on our website and you can register for these as well. Also, I want to mention that we have the final event of our project next week, Wednesday. So whoever is in Brussels, you are really welcome to join us as well at the final event, where we will also meet experts and we will discuss these themes and share results of our project outputs and our recommendations for the European Commission related to the citizen resilience against disinformation in the future. I am Elina. I work at Beyond the Horizon, and I will share our these materials that we have created on AI-enabled disinformation together with our partners. I also have Markus Neuvonen here from Faktabari, who was kind enough to join me as an expert. I will see that I
Good
will.
Afternoon.
Hello.
Hi.
I will allow your camera and microphone so you will be able to discuss and share your insights with us. So what we will do is I will first give the mic for Markus so he can share about how he came to this work package. This was responsibility of Faktabari in this project. And after the framework workshop that they had in Helsinki with experts, they came to this first frame for the content, and then we designed the content for the booster. So, Markus, we are happy to listen to you and tell more about this for us.
Thank you. Very good afternoon, everyone. I hope my microphone picks my voice here well enough. Yes, you're hearing me all right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Perfect.
I actually have a couple of slides that I could go through, like the kind of the broader issue that we kind of faced when picking up this theme. If it's okay, I can share some slides with you.
Sure.
I hope you're seeing what I'm presenting here.
Yes, we can see, Mike.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so our topic in this project was AI-enabled disinformation, and I will go through a couple of ideas about it very shortly. Then we can expand the discussion. Maybe a couple of words about like us, or maybe me as well. I will have a short introduction to to the topics and kind of what we found out in our expert workshops and the research that happened afterwards, and kind of highlight a couple of skills, essential skills that we identified that as essential for identifying AI-generated disinformation online. Faktabari, word from our sponsor. Faktabari is a fact-checking organization based in Finland, and we advocate digital information literacy as well, quite a lot actually. We're politically independent and usually funded by different kinds of EU project forces, like this Immune to Infodemic 2, and so on. And what we do is we promote basically digital information literacy and education on these topics, and do journalistic fact checking and all kinds of developments. We investigate disinformation as well across the board and polarization, and try to develop all these kinds of ways to counter this phenomena that we come up against here online. Yeah. So a couple of words about on disinformation and the ways that disinformation threatens the democracy. I think this is something that is like the broader theme in our project. Do you agree, Elina? Like how to cope with this kind of information disturbance? Like, what is the broader picture here? And the starting point of this problem is that we live in a mediated reality, which means that it's like that if you recall from your school years the allegory of the cave presented by Plato in his Republic, there are these figures that are chained into a seat, and what everything that they can see is like they can only see this kind of a puppet theater or shadow theater in front of their eyes, and there's like this puppeteer who presents all these kinds of figures to their view, and they think that is all there is, and they are horribly mistaken. And this is very apt allegory for the life that we are living here, but instead of being chained, we are actually hooked to not so much a shadow theater, but a social media feed, and not so much on a wall, but on a smartphone. And instead of like actually living puppeteers, we now have these kinds of algorithmic puppeteers that curate the reality that we see online, the search engines, the social media, and all that kind of stuff that we come up with. And they have taught us to be so emotionally fragile and easily triggered that we cannot cope with any kind of cognitive dissonance anymore, which means that we're living this kind of emotional state that is very fertile ground for all kinds of political polarization and triggering and psychologically, when we are in this kind of state, we become very easily manipulated. And the larger problem is that if we're talking about democracy, it relies on warranted trust, which means that trust in due processes, trust in the rule of law and the Rechtsstaat principle, trust in that our basic rights and liberties are respected and that our participation in the society is genuine. We have to trust in economy that it is at least to some extent non-corrupt, and we have to trust that we are actually free to pursue whatever we are willing to pursue in the society. We have to trust scientific knowledge, at least, or verifiable knowledge, in order that we can have this kind of democracy. And also, to a degree, we have to trust the media, the free, non-partisan media. We have to have that warranted trust in these kinds of news outlets. And there has to be some grounds to believing that what they're presenting to us is, at least to some extent, true. We have to trust in the deliberative discourse, that it has some kind of effect on how things are going to roll out. And we have to trust in transparency. And most importantly of all, we have to have a minimally shared worldview. Warranted trust that we actually believe that, at least to some degree, the same things, that we share the same planet and the same laws of physics, and so that at least some kind of political or democratic discussion can happen. We have to have this kind of like fundamental trust here, so that the democracy can prevail and even flourish, and so on. So this is like where the democracy is, what it needs, but and this is probably very clear for all of us. But the thing is that every single pillar and the foundation of this fragile structure is under the most heinous attack. just a reminder, what kinds of information disorders we have. We have misinformation, which is like I wouldn't say bona fide, but at least like it's an honest mistake. People are mistaken all the time. And we have malinformation, which means that you can use like factual claims to harm someone. You can speak through it with bad intent. And then we have disinformation in the middle of this graph, which means that you are deliberately spreading fabricated information, deliberately spreading falsehoods with intent to harm. So and this information is the worst of these. And there are different kinds of reasons spreading disinformation. These are things that you can actually find in our Immune to Infodemic course in a much more elegant format than here. But we have kind of political reasons, which is like very understandable. We can have economic reasons. There are some people who actually benefit financially from disinformation. You can have extra-national reasons, which is, I think, the topic of the next one of the next webinars, more closely on that. For instance, on the foreign information manipulation and interference. You can have personal or psychological reasons, which means that it's like there are people who have, for instance, figured it all out and they just want to recruit you to their personal delusions, for instance, or they want to hurt someone. And then there are people who just want to see the world burn for fun. They spread falsehoods just to see how the chaos is spreading. These are the 5 main reasons for spreading disinformation, and the ways that they work is usually by strong emotional content. So the first step for spreading disinformation is usually provoking strong emotional content to activate your motivated reasoning. When your strong emotions get aroused, this kind of a momentary shutdown of critical thinking happens, and exploiting all psychological biases that are plenty in the human mind becomes so much easier. So strong emotional content is the first mechanism of how this disinformation works. Other mechanisms are like repetition. So if you just repeat the same claim over and over again, you're creating familiarity in people's minds, and so these claims start to kind of anchor into people's thinking. So they're exploiting familiarity bias and confirmation bias, for instance. Dismissal and discrediting refutation is one mechanism as well, which means that just if you attempt to challenge these kinds of claims, they just don't respond to you. Just move around your critiques and start and keep repeating these claims, or they may attack the messenger by like starting to refute, discrediting the person who was presenting the critique and be critical, and so they kind of just manage to dismiss all kinds of refutations and counter arguments, and causing this kind of muddying the waters effect. Usually they use oversimplified claims, oversimplified narratives, like these kinds of engaging narratives, stories about good versus evil, engaging the audiences in black and white thinking, and exaggerating certainly that this is absolutely true, that is absolutely false, and blurring all the details. You can find ample examples of these types of claims spreading around the internet. Usually they have some kind of selective presentation, which means they dismiss all the nuances and they give you this kind of a cherry-picked version of evidence as well, and heavily rely on content manipulation, which means like falsifying images, falsifying videos, and falsifying audio, which has become increasingly easy. So this is the broad picture of disinformation, the 5 reasons why they 5 motivations behind spreading, 5 main motivations behind spreading all kinds of disinformation, and 6, or actually 7 kind of mechanisms that disinformation tends to exploit. And these are all well known. The last one was blurring context, which means that you can take a factual content and versus a genuine picture of, let's say, an earthquake and its results, and put it in another context, and you can claim that somewhere was this kind of a horrible bombing that was happening, and then you misrepresent like factual content, and you kind of mislead this way. And combine different kinds of media to create this kind of misleading effect. So these kinds of mechanisms are quite often present in disinformation, and probably there are quite a lot more, but these are like 7 the most common ways of this disinformation to work. And that will bring us to this fact that it's like how disinformation works. It usually works by hijacking critical thinking. So critical thinking in itself needs to be kind of safeguarded, because when you activate this motivated reasoning, then this kind of hijacking happens, and the people who can be like perfectly good critical thinking get kind of hijacked into this distorted way of thinking. And that brings us to the AI-powered and on AI-enhanced and AI-enabled disinformation. In this project, we identified like several new forms of disinformation, and some of these are actually already a reality. When we started this project 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, do you remember, Elina? When did we start?
We started originally in 22 with the first version of Immune to Infodemic, and then 2 years ago, 24 with the Immune to Infodemic 2.
Yeah, this is like something that we started 2 years ago, and there wasn't too much of AI-powered disinformation yet. Then we were anticipating that all these kinds of things will happen, and we held this expert workshop in Helsinki in 2024, and there were plenty of people from different walks of life, like from the Finnish government and intelligence services and so on. And we did this kind of future prospecting in this workshop, and we tried to kind of anticipate what's going to happen in next 2 years. And I would say that this trip has been horrifying. I hate it when I'm right about some of these things, and this is something that it's horrifying to see how this kind of forecast rolls out in the front of your eyes, real time. Like you feel like a Cassandra in the Greek mythology. You were cursed with the gift of foresight, and nobody will believe you when you're telling what's going to happen. And this is something that we actually identified in 2024, that these things will happen, and were already happening. These forms were already happening then, but what's even more, I will talk about that next. But these forms of disinformation that we already knew that were in the development and even in use was like deepfake videos and deepfake audio, like cloning people's voices and use it to scam other people and images. In 2024, the Hurricane Milton hit the eastern coast of United States, and what we saw there was one of the first attempts. Well, first, I don't know how many attempts there has been, but one of the kind of most first prominent attempts to cause absolute mayhem by just flooding the internet with deepfake videos and all these kinds of like fake images. And what we saw there was this local rupture of reality. Like the reality itself kind of ripped apart. Like some part of the people were still living in a planet, the other ones were living in some kind of flat surface. I don't know how that works out, but yeah, and people like claiming that this hurricane never happened, like that was just all fake, or that this whole hurricane, it was a simulation, or that it was like manufactured somehow. Human beings have developed this kind of technology to manipulate weather, and this was like a weapons test on United States own citizens. So it was horrible to see that this kind of that people just kind of went crazy, and the whole reality kind of split apart. Like you still had those people who actually kind of kept it together, and then a whole lot of people who just kind of lost it, at least momentarily. And this was the starting point of our at the start of our project. We were like kind of worried that okay, this how much more worse can it get? And it gets even worse. So what we were anticipating in I think it was October of 2024. We were thinking that okay, there are different kinds of vulnerabilities that the AI, for instance, can have, and they can be developed into these kinds of autonomous bot thingies that you can actually give them a degree of autonomy and so on. We didn't yet know that would be the case, but it would be the case, and it would be that that would be the reality much faster than we anticipated, because the next spring, the spring of 2025, we actually saw that this was already happening. This was already like in our hands. That, for instance, the American Sunlight Project, which is like this kind of project that keeps tabs on all these kinds of like disinformation things, they uncovered this. I would say it was one of those controlled tests that the Russians were using. They were infiltrating these kinds of discussion boards where people were discussing, for instance, environmental things, or these kinds of tech debates. This kind of internet forums, and they were infiltrating them with a huge number of AI bots, and they kind of orchestrate these kinds of bot swarms so that they try to see that whether or not they can manipulate the attitudes and the discussions and so on, like very carefully by using these kinds of bots to in all silence and all like very subtly trying to influence these discussions to become even more radical, or create some kinds of crazy ideas and all that kind of stuff. That was a test. And American Sunlight Project exposed this in 2025. What we were thinking in October 2020, October 24, we were speculating that maybe these kinds of large language models may be somehow polluted. Like if you just publish enough stuff in the internet, maybe they can start to kind of pollute themselves, or maybe that happens like endogenously as well, like in itself. And this is exactly what happened. What we saw was that Russia and China started deliberately polluting these large language models by publishing like ridiculous number of text material in the internet, which caused this kind of effect that the web scrapers that were used to teach large language models picked up these kinds of narratives. So if you prompt ChatGPT or Gemini or what have you correctly, it will start replicating and producing Russian propaganda. We were hopeful, in fact, about it, that our small language, the Finnish, would be somehow safe from this. But last year we did this kind of research and found out that these Nordic languages, for example, they were already polluted this way. And this will get even worse because we have passed the point where the materials, text format materials that have been published in the internet are like more than 50% of everything that is in the text format, like as in articles in the internet, are already AI generated. So the AI is teaching itself by materials that they have themselves produced, which causes even more kind of pollution in the large language models. But this kind of deliberate polluting is also a technique that is also already in widespread use, and our prospects are that this will become even more like a commercial thing as well. Like commercial actors, large companies will start using this. They are already using botnets to influence things. For instance, I think it was Shine that got caught in this kind of a scandal last summer, where they had used this kind of a botnet to discredit like influencers who were ordering stuff from Shine, and these things are like very bad quality, and then the whole comment section was flooded with these bot accounts, kind of trying to discredit these influencers. So these kinds of new forms of AI-powered disinformation is like these bot swarms, and this is like a genuine threat to democracy, because you can basically astroturf anything at a very low cost, and the large language model pollution large language model pollution. So these are like the new forms of disinformation, and they are on the growth as well. How about algorithmic influence? In 2023, you had to pay. You can see here. This is from NATO Stratcom. In 2023, you had to pay 70,000. Oh, let's look at Twitter. I think it's the best example. If you would want to have like 60,200 views for your Twitter post, you had to pay only 10 euros. And that was 2023. Now look how much you would get with 10 euros this year. 156,083 views for your Twitter bot. So this is like the algorithmic manipulation part. You can use the AI bots to manipulate how these suggestion algorithms work. So and this way manufacture the reality that people see online. This is one part of the AI powered disinformation as well. algorithmic manipulation that it makes possible. Of course, it hallucinates a lot, and this is something where we can see the pollution as well. Like if you ask some let's say political questions about from any of these chatbots, you can see that they hallucinate quite a lot. Like 2024, ChatGPT hallucinated 33%. 2025, it started hallucinating 40%. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. Or let's say Grok, 2024, it hallucinated 13%, now it's 33%, and so on. The new research, the newest research that I came across with shows this kind of percent. And this is like, I think this is the saddest thing. Like if you look at let's say Mistral, 33 from it jumps from, this is the European owned AI, 36% and jumps to 50%. So this is, it's not getting better, at least not that much. Of course, Claude here is pretty impressive. It hallucinates quite small amounts, and they somehow managed to get it into zero in this test that they did. I don't know if it's possible, but at least this research shows that it hallucinates somewhat less than the others. And the point is that the individual critical thinking is not enough. No, and because we live in the world where people use short videos, and it's like short videos are this kind of format that tends to bypass critical thinking, or this kind of slow analytical thinking, and it's kind of a challenge for media literacy and digital information literacy to teach these kinds of skills when the media formats themselves are so fast and impulsive and addictive that this kind of thinking that is required, it never kind of activates in our minds. They're very addictive, and the other problem is that people's media use is drifting towards like decentralized channels like WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal, Snapchat, and so on. So it's like we don't have any kind of transparency and no content moderation, and no one takes any kind of journalistic responsibilities or tries to control what happens there in these kinds of more or less private spaces. So it's really hard to control the spread of this kind of disinformation if it's through these kinds of channels, decentralized channels. And AI is also very good at producing, at least helping to produce these kinds of emotionally engaging narratives and targeting identity as well in these kinds of manipulations. So this is like one aspect of AI-powered disinformation. Yeah, but we do have some skills in this project that we identified, like what can us individuals do? What can we as individuals develop in ourselves to live in this AI enhanced disinformation, in this world that produces these kinds of information disturbance. And if we focus on just the AI enhanced and AI enabled disinformation, especially in the social media, well, just a reminder, mind you, one key skill is identifying language cues that we can develop in ourselves. Like we can learn how to spot like this kind of unnatural consistency in language use. Repetitive phrases or repetitive, content as well. There are some things that you can spot from structures as well. these kinds of weird language structures that they use, and this kind of a vague source attribution. So that because AI usually doesn't attribute sources well, so you can kind of learn how to develop this kind of way of spotting that okay, this sounds like AI. It's unnatural somehow. Somehow it misses like emotional cues, or is like too neutral or too emotional or something like that. There are behavioral indicators in social media, for instance. You can look for posting frequency. Usually AI bots post like that they're slave to their programming, so they will post like on the minute or on the hour or something like that, like every hour or every day at the same time. So it's like you can see these kinds of clues or indicators in the frequency that some social media accounts, for instance, post. There are timing patterns that like if they post on different languages or different places, like you can identify the time zones. For instance, from the way that they post, like if let's say the Chinese influencer is using AI bots to influence some discussion, they might be using the Chinese time zone to like they usually program these bots to their own personal time zone. So you can see that okay, there are some indicators that this is like an unnatural behavior. There are weird things happening in the engagement as well, and you can see like if the coordination between different kinds of social media accounts is too consistent, or they're using the same kind of language and repeating the same message different ways, then it's like still a good indicator that this might be a botnet that is trying to influence a discussion as well. There are some profile level of red flags. Like you can kind of red flag and bot account by focusing on the usernames as well. Like okay, they usually use like pretty generic usernames like Lydia 1113007 or something like that. Profile pictures are often either stolen. You can do this like reverse image search and see if it's like the person at all, or if it's AI generated, you can zoom in and see if the reflection point in their eyes is symmetric and all that kind of stuff. If the user history is somehow weird, like it's a very new account, but suddenly there's like plenty of activity. And usually one indicator is also this kind of follower following ratio, that these accounts tend to follow a lot, but they themselves have very little followers. So this is something that might indicate bot activity as well. Content patterns as well. They usually use this kind of emotional content, but are somehow vague, not very specific in their expression. There are strange things happening in the images and videos that they share, and they tend to post fake evidence as well. And this kind of echo amplification is something that happens there as well. Like they're trying to amplify and echo each other and try to reduce this kind of a thing. Yeah.
Hi, Markus.
Yeah.
There is one question, and it would be nice to have some time if other people
Sure.
have some questions as well. I don't know, how much do you still have?
this slide.
Okay, sure. Please finish.
Yeah, just okay. That's a metadata. Network and metadata clues are also. This gets more technical. Like you can check this kind of so-called hashtag flooding and these kinds of clusters and if you have access to different kinds of platforms, you can see that the same message repeats in different kinds of platforms as well. Or you can, or if you're a technical person, you can use these kinds of tools to spot if they're using what kind of what's it called what kind of clients they're using, for instance. This is a bit technical. Yeah, there are like specific things that you can use as well. Like you can get very technical in analyzing something like professionals do. They're trying to analyze whether accounts are bots. So that they're checking so-called style drift, that whether the style is somehow kind of corrupting or changing through time. Are there some kind of context mismatches as well? What kind of language they use, like whether it's like nuanced or not. Do they kind of miss, for instance, the use of irony or sarcasm or any these kinds of things? And this kind of a balanced tone is often overused in bot accounts as well. And basic fact checking skills are still pretty strong tools for identifying bot accounts and the AI-powered disinformation. So these kinds of strategies. Reverse image search. You can check the creation, the creation date of the social media account and whether or not it gets kind of artificially, viral. That's pretty red flag. And cross-referencing, whether or not that they're using like credible sources or not. So basic fact-checking tools are still pretty strong. You can still rely on that simple toolbox, even with these kinds of things. Yeah. I don't know. This is all. Let's have a discussion.
Thank you, Markus. That was great. So interesting to listen to. So there is one question from Dimitra Tsovaltsi. She's asking if you have references for the disinformation strategies that you mentioned.
References? You mean academic references?
I don't know. Dimitra, do you want to specify this question? Maybe can unmute you for a moment. So you're unmuted if you want to specify this question.
Okay, that's a reference. I think mentioned the workshop report that we published. Maybe this information strategy. Yeah, this is like these main strategies are actually mentioned in the the immune infodemic, like the basic course. There's something that we identified there. They are, I can't remember where they are from, but they are like, these are like these 5 disinformation strategies are like usually like thought as like given in a sense, like there's a well known that you can find the same strategies basically anywhere, but there are of course references to these strategies as well. But I would have to check them where they are originate the research. Yeah.
So, Marcus, now I am unmuted. I can talk to you.
Yeah.
I think you can hear me. Yes. So, first of all, thank you very much for this very nice presentation. And yes, my question was whether you have academic references for those, but I understand that it's a collection that you have from your work, basically, and you didn't necessarily add references to each one of them. I would also like to ask, if I may I ask another
Please
question?
Go ahead.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So maybe first of all, to introduce myself, I'm Dimitar Tsovalti. I'm working for COS, and I've also just acquired a project on disinformation, and it is about emotional manipulation mainly.
Yes.
And combating emotional manipulation. So it's not only about detecting it, but it's also about strategies to combat it, using LLMs also. That's why I'm here.
Yep.
And you said that in one of your slides that the use of videos is kind of it undermines any possibility for critical thinking because the information is too fast. And you referred to Kahneman, slow, fast, the two modi. Yeah, you want to say something about that?
No, go on. Yes, I was just agreeing. Yes.
Yeah. No, I was wondering if you could speak to that a bit more, actually, because this would be like at the heart of what we will be trying to do in our project. Mars is a project. And I was wondering if you could share some more thoughts on that, or even sources, or whatever you think is appropriate.
This is like one of those common. I think it's like one of the standard theories in cognitive science at this point is called so-called dual processing model, where the human mind is. Are you familiar with the idea?
Yeah. I know Kahneman. Yeah, I know.
And
the dual processing model.
And
maybe you can shortly open it. Sorry, Marcus. Maybe you can shortly explain it to people who are not familiar.
Yeah. So the basic idea is that we have like two different kinds of systems how we process information. We have this like, and this is like there's an evolutionary basis on how this has kind of developed. So this so-called older system is called the system 1, which is so-called fast thinking, which is very intuitive, inherently quite biased. It is context specific, like what you learn in one context that will cause you to know all those kinds of things in that context and forget it in the other context. As a good example, like if you need to cut something with scissors, for instance, in your living room, and you go to your kitchen and you take the drawer and you pull the scissors out and you have forgotten what was I supposed to do with these scissors? And it is caused by the door frame, because your brains are interpreting that this is like a completely different situation. So whatever I was doing there is not relevant anymore. If you are familiar with these kinds of phenomena, and this is like basically how the system one works. It's super fast, very efficient at what it does, but it's very biased and like impulsive and so on. And we're not conscious about it. It's like this kind of a intuitive and non-conscious processing of what is happening all the time. Most of our actions rely on this kind of fast processing. On top of that, we have developed this like system 2, which is like the conscious, logical, algorithmic way of thinking, which helps us to kind of move things from one context to another, but it's very slow to kind of activate, and it's very energy consuming as well, which is why we basically hate to think hard problems, let's say, like for instance mathematics or those kinds of things. And then there's like there's all these kinds of metacognitive skills that we learn how to kind of balance these two ways of processing. and this is something that Keith Standovich writes plenty about. But this is the basic idea, that we have basically two different kinds of minds. We have the conscious mind, which is very slow. It's very slow to activate, and it's very energy consuming, but it's very efficient at what it does. And then we have this like super fast, super efficient, intuitive, but non-conscious mind, and all these kinds of manipulation techniques, they usually work by somehow like capturing the system one, the fast thinking, and we're talking about these short videos, usually the pace of the media itself, and the way it activates emotions and kind of triggers us and hooks us, and like makes us addicted. It basically is just feeding candy to the system one kind of impulsive way. We don't have any time to process like slowly information and analyze and use that kind of critical thinking that is completely it is part of the system two, or the slow thinking. I don't know if I explained this well, but
yeah, I think you explained it well. Only thing I would add to this is that because you also mentioned the evolutionary priority of system one, so the fast system. I would also add that this also coincides with the evolutionary steps with regard to the emotional intelligence versus cognition, analytical thinking further. So my question is, are you saying that the fast transition from one video to the next is not allowing any any time resources for critical thinking? Or are you saying that the videos are created in a way that they directly appeal to system one, so that there's no room for critical thinking? Or are you saying both?
I hate to deal it in absolutes, but there's these kinds of tendencies, and the short video format is absolutely designed to do exactly that. It is deliberate that the social media companies know very well how to addict people. So this is the knowledge, the dark design that is being used in these kinds of in these formats. But I think we are kind of we're more vulnerable for manipulation when we get hooked on this kind of format. So I don't know. I don't want to say that not any kind of thinking happens when you're using short videos, but I think it's significantly more difficult for us because of the pace and the emotional content and that kind of way of triggering and appealing to senses and so on.
I get you.
Yeah.
So if I may pick your mind, I don't know if there's anybody else who wants to talk. I don't want to manipulate the conversation, but I don't see any hands. Maybe.
I think there were a moment ago. There was some hand over there. Yeah.
Yes, there was one hand, and there is actually. I want to show shortly where to find the course also on our platform. But how do we go?
Yes. I've put my email in the chat. So Marcus or anybody else, it would be great to stay in touch.
Sure. Yeah, I can put my email here as well. So
yeah, that would be great.
You can just send me. One moment. It's very easy. It's Markus@faktabari.fi.
Perfect.
Yeah, but there's a hand over there. Yeah.
Yes, there's one hand. Megan, maybe you can go shortly, and then I will present the image to INFODEMIC materials online. Oh, I need to unmute you, sorry. Okay, normally you can speak. If you just open your microphone, you can post your question.
Yes,
or you can write it in the chat as well. Okay, while we're waiting for Megan, maybe I open my presentation.
Yeah, I think this is the question that Megan has written in the chat as well. Let's see. Yeah, it's exactly like this. Already exist these kinds of manipulations, and they have proliferated very quickly. What investigative and legal tools exist for civil society to identify who is behind AI-generated manipulation campaigns? Well, as I said, there are some kinds of tools. I'm not a technical expert, but usually it involves some sort of open source intelligence and protocols, like these specialized tools to see, for instance, like metadata and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me
Yes.
now?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm echoing. Oh, I think there's two on the same time. Don't know how to turn that off. Sorry, I'm just going to turn that off. Oh, sorry, that'll probably be better. So in question, it's in relation to coordinated inauthentic behavior, and I'm wondering if the tools in question, like the rate which they proliferate, there seems to be nothing to be able to stop them. Is there any way, like, recourse to finding out who is responsible for the behavior? I mean, is there any, like, legitimately, like, at a national or like an EU level to kind of disclose? Because effectively, the situation going on in a certain area to influence a piece of legislation, and it seems to be there's kind of bad actors behind it using kind of AI manipulative material, and
Yes.
it's incessant. And I just was wondering, is there any way to recourse, because it's not stopping, it's proliferating? Is there any way to find out who is behind the material at all?
Possibly it goes like to the rabbit hole of like this kind of a white hat hacking. Like, you have to have these kinds of really technical tools for doing that. I'm personally I'm not very well versed in all that kind of like technical, like this kind of forensics, digital forensics techniques. But I believe there exists all these kinds of things, and people who are like working in cybersecurity, for instance, or on the technical side, they usually have some kinds of these kinds of tools. Of course, there are limitations for them. One option actually was presented in this very recent paper. I don't recall, was it in Nature or in Science, or where it was published, on these kinds of ideas that you can actually use these bot swarms as well for like good ends, like protecting democracy and legislation and all that kind of stuff. So it's like a kind of a double-edged sword. But the problem is that nobody is using them for that purpose. So I think it's like a question of the lack of ruthlessness of like morally motivated people.
It's a very good point. I hadn't thought about that, actually counteracting it. It's just in question. It seems that there's a lot of kind of actors who would like to financially gain influencing people on a certain piece of legislation, and the majority of people are against it. And I would just like to know who's behind it, because it seems to be a repetitive pattern for a company in question. So yeah, I can look into that myself. But thank you very much.
But look for digital forensics. I think that will yield the best result. Or well, at least to my intuition, that would be where I would start my search on this.
Perfect.
Yes. Thank you for the questions, and thank you, Markus. I will shortly share our e-learning platform to show where to find more information about this. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes. So in our course, we aimed for threefold change. We wanted to increase knowledge, skills, and also attitudinal change. So here you can see our the the content of our course. So we have first introduction to AI enhanced in disinformation. Then we talk about AI images, audio, and deepfakes, personalized, hyper-localized content, then botnets, agent networks, and chatbots, LLM biases, and pollution. Basically, everything that Markus was talking about now is included in our course, but then maybe with more links and extra materials. And then how to recognize AI-generated disinformation and bot accounts. And the course is, it's on our platform that is called INFODEMIC.eu. You can go to the platform.
We lost you. Yeah.
Yes, now you normally see this. We have also other courses, basic courses on critical thinking, media literacy, digital literacy, and then different boosters. But you will find the AI-enabled disinformation here. And you can register for free for the course. You will find these materials in there. And yes, so you can go and look for more information for yourself. I'm just checking if there is something that we did not discuss, but I think that Markus went basically through everything in our course.
Sorry.
I know, it's okay. We also have some cases that make it more concrete. So there are some social media images in our course that we took, and we then opened them with our tools. We have 31 tools that we created on critical thinking, media literacy, and digital literacy, including this recognizing and checking how algorithms impact your feed, and checking using tools to recognize AI created images, or if images are fake or not. And so you can freely go there, download the tools, use them. Yes, so I will not take more time because we have already spent the hour, but I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for being at this event, and thank you, Markus, for the great presentation on AI-enhanced disinformation. And we hope to see you in our final event next week, and then in our 2 other webinars in 2 weeks and in 3 weeks. So have a nice day.
Thank you.
Yes, bye.
Nice day.